Welcome to the Breaking 90 podcast, where we talk about all things sustainable fat loss. We take people on 90-day journeys to creating fat loss forever. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Breaking 90 podcast. I'm here today with my co-host, Kelly Sarlo, and we are the coaches of Breaking 90 Fitness. Thanks for listening today, guys. Hope you enjoy the episode. Hey, Kelly.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Good. I just officially signed up for a self-defense class in July, and I'm already feeling pumped and empowered about it.
Cool. Do you know what type of martial arts it is?
I don't. The title of the workshop is called Underestimated, and it's really just about, I would imagine just kind of on the spot. I don't know how much they're going to go into particular martial arts. I'm kind of going in blind, ironically.
Cool. You've done jiu-jitsu in the past before, right?
Yeah, but not in no great detail, just the week that you get free at a studio kind of thing.
Yeah, you didn't become a black belt or anything.
No, not so much.
Just shy of that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So there's hundreds, probably thousands of different martial arts, but Brazilian jiu-jitsu specifically is one of the most well recognized, I'll say, in professional fighting. And most professional fighters have an extensive background in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and it's to become a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, authentic Brazilian jiu-jitsu, takes 9 or 10 years or something. It's a crazy endeavor to get to that level. And there's different forms of jiu-jitsu too. There's Japanese jiu-jitsu and different kinds of jiu-jitsu, but Brazilian itself is to get to that level is insane. You're one of the 1% of the 1% of best fighters or grapplers in the world.
Well, I loved it. And I thought, as I signed up for this course, I'm that'll be my cool 20 minutes of movement minimum. We're doing a full day kind of thing. And I thought, what a fun way to work out the body, wake up muscles that you don't necessarily do during a traditional strength training or cardio workout. And just, the empowerment that comes with it.
Cool. I like it. Good for you. Okay, so what I have today for a topic is this is something that a conversation you and I talked about actually sparked a bit. So what I want to talk about today is holding yourself accountable. So after something like Breaking 90 Fitness or another journey, the steps that it takes to hold yourself accountable and what that can look like for some people and might not necessarily for other people. Cool?
Yeah, I love that.
All right. So I think first of all, it's being really real with yourself if you can get there. So if somebody's listening to this and they haven't even began their journey yet, you might find it very difficult to hold yourself accountable. You might not. Some people have done this entire journey on themselves. Don't get me wrong. There hasn't always been opportunities for coaching and programs and that kind of thing for people. So certainly people have done this all on their own. But if you're listening to this, you probably at some point or another have used a coach, have used a program, or have considered using a program. So this is more about okay, I don't really know how to get started, but once you do get started, once you lay that foundation down, what I would consider important as you decide to venture out on your own and hold yourself accountable. Okay. Does that all kind of make sense so far, what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think this is a great topic. And I think if people are listening and haven't started their journey, stick around anyway, because you want to know this going into a program, because this is what you're working toward.
For sure.
You're probably picking a coach and picking a program because you've recognized that you're having a hard time holding yourself accountable, or maybe you just need someone to kind of fill in some blanks about knowledge that you don't necessarily have. And both of those are great reasons. But eventually you need to get to these, probably what will become a checklist by the end of the show, to be able to go, okay, am I in this zone of being able to honestly say I can hold myself accountable?
Cool. So I'll start off by saying that depending on your goals, depending on who you are, depending on what you want to accomplish, you may or may not ever be able to fully hold yourself accountable. And that's okay. That's very normal. We all are going to go through different phases and periods and seasons and struggles and wins. And that's a completely normal part of a health and fitness journey. I say it all the time. I've hired many coaches for my own health, fitness, nutrition journey. It has nothing to do with not knowing what I should be doing, but it all comes down to accountability. When we have accountability to get us through those difficult times, it makes them easier. It's a no-brainer. I will continue to hire coaches for probably the rest of my life. As long as I have goals that I want to strive for, I will hire coaches to help me get there, whether that's in business or health and fitness and nutrition. I will continue to hire and use coaches to help me with that accountability and to see things from a different perspective. So I don't want people thinking it's like, okay, I use a program to get where I need to go, and then I'll be on my own forever. It might be for you, but that really depends on the individual and your goals. So if you are always striving for more, or to compete in something or to accomplish something, you will benefit from having a coach to get there. Absolutely.
I think,
Go ahead.
I pause you there? Yeah, I think that's a really amazing point to start with, because for some people, they might listen to this and be like, well, if you need a coach for the rest of your life, like you've failed at something. And you're talking about the ability to, or the desire, I should say, to shift goals, change goals, be excited by something new or different or more reasonable as we age. And just change kind of the lifestyle that we're interested in. And none of that means failure. It actually means that we are checking in with ourselves and being honest with ourselves and saying like, okay, who is going to be my best resource to help me feel great in each of these different goals and seasons of life?
Totally. And if I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm really happy with where I'm at right now. I don't have physical goals I want to accomplish. I'm not training for something specific. I'm probably not going to use a coach to get through that period. If I'm like content with the way I feel, the way I move, the way I look, the way I perform, I'm not going to use a coach at that point. But I often want to do something else. I want to make a change or compete in something different or try a different event. I like to have some different accountability and outside view to get me there because it's beneficial. I've seen what coaching can do, and I obviously believe in coaching because it's what we do. So that's the reason I would consider that in those times of change.
Cool.
Okay. Where do we want to start here? So you get to the point where you've got a really great foundation. You're feeling really happy with the progress you've made, and now you're kind of entering what I would consider a maintenance phase or a phase of less change. So we're not trying to make drastic changes anymore. We might still be trying to make some change, some small progress, but we're not trying to lose like 50 pounds or make a huge body composition shift. And you're feeling really good with the knowledge that you've gained. How do we venture out on our own? What should that look like? So I think the first piece of advice I would give everybody is to try not to watch yourself under a microscope. And what I mean by when I say that is when you're working with a coach, the coach is going to be watching everything you do very closely. They're going to be able to make small changes to accommodate the progress you are or aren't making. They're going to make small shifts based off of your day-to-day routines. That is much harder for us to do for ourselves because we don't have that outside viewpoint. We are more emotionally attached to our journey than somebody else, the coach, would be to our journey. So it's easier for us to justify changing when changing isn't necessary. Okay. Yep. Does that make sense so far?
Oh yeah. And I think for some people who might not have resonated with the way that you worded it, like if I can just reword it, we can put ourselves under a microscope and then justify why we're doing something and say why it's okay. And given what I did yesterday, it makes sense, or it's fine that I'm doing this because it all balances out, instead of sticking to the routines that we know are best for us and are going to keep us consistent.
Yeah, 100%. the truth is the most successful people when we talk about a health and fitness journey are the people who have done it consistently for the longest amount of time, usually. There's obviously anomalies and the genetic freaks, and you see the people who do things that don't seem humanly possible. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about everybody who wants to live a longer, healthier, happier life. It takes ruthless consistency, and it doesn't require a ton of changes. So once you've gotten to a place where you're making progress, you're happy with the progress you're making, you don't need to be consistently changing things for yourself. You need to be consistent. And so that is always the first place we're going to start on this journey with ourselves, asking myself and being very honest with myself, have I been consistent? And so whatever measurement you're going to use to track that, we use a calendar where you just basically mark down on the calendar, I hit my goals this day, I hit my goals this day, I hit my goals this day, I was off my goals this day. And if you look at your consistency and say, yes, I'm being honest with myself, I have been consistent, I haven't been letting things get a little loose, then we can advance to the next kind of check in the checklist. But truthfully, that one step alone will almost always be enough for most people. And so we always want to make these micro changes for ourselves. Well, I was really good this week and I didn't make progress, so I'm gonna restrict my calories a little bit more. I'm gonna add another workout. But that's almost never going to be the solution for you. It's probably just some minor change. Maybe you didn't sleep as well and you're retaining water. Maybe your exercise was a little bit less than it normally is. You didn't work out quite as hard. Maybe you ate a few more calories than you accounted for. But with long-term consistency, we won't notice those micro changes as much. So that's why I say try not to change things. Try not to change things as frequently. Try not to watch yourself under a microscope. Try to look at the big picture. Over this whole month or this 2-month period, I was consistent and my progress did or did not go the direction I wanted to.
Cool.
Okay.
So I'm also hearing too, like, sometimes you didn't do anything wrong. If we're talking about consistency over time, you have two variables and you can't consider one without the other. So if you're looking at, oh, I hit, the scale didn't move at the end of this week, I wonder why, what did I do wrong? If you honestly can go through the list of things that you just talked about and said, nope, everything's bang on, then maybe it isn't about fault. Maybe it is that we just need a little bit more time for that scale to move. And it's just about maintaining the consistency.
For sure. So I'm going to sidetrack a little bit here because this is something that I run into a lot with people, is people saying, I've been in a calorie deficit now for X amount of time and I'm not making progress. Well, that is too black and white to be possibly true. There's way too much gray area in between that we have to dig into and uncover to know whether or not what you're doing is correct or isn't correct. So in order to lose weight, we need to be in a calorie deficit. The problem is a calorie deficit isn't always a calorie deficit. So what I mean by when I say that is, say Kelly is eating 1,500 calories every day and she's making great progress, and then all of a sudden her progress stops and she's still eating 1,500 calories per day. Well, she says to me, I'm still in a calorie deficit. Why would my progress stop? Well, you aren't. If you're not making progress, you aren't in a calorie deficit. If it's been a long, consistent period of time, okay? Obviously, over a couple of days or a week or even 2 or 3 weeks, it could be just water retention. So I don't want to say in the short term, but say for a long period of time now, she's like, I'm still doing that 1,500 calories. Why am I not making progress? Well, a number of things can be happening here. One, her metabolic rate can change. All of our metabolic rates can change. So especially if you're a woman listening to this and you're going through any sort of hormonal changes, that will affect your metabolic rate. That will affect how many calories you are burning every day. So when we decide what a calorie deficit is, it means we're eating less calories than we're burning. The problem is that what we're burning is a ever-changing number, right? It changes with our stress, with our sleep, with our recovery, with how much we're moving day to day, with what kinds of food we're eating, with our hormonal changes, like I mentioned. So maybe Kelly at one point was burning 1,700 calories a day and was making really great progress. But now, without even realizing, maybe she cut out that 20-minute walk to work in the morning that she used to do. Maybe she has gone through some physical changes that she's not really aware of, and now she's only burning 1,500 calories a day and eating 1,500 calories a day. Well, you're no longer in a deficit. Now you're in a maintenance. Okay, so that's something to be really aware of, and this will come and go through different periods of your life. So it's not like your metabolic rate just decreases until the day that we die, and you just have to eat less and less and less. That's not what I'm implying, but there will be changes that we need to be aware of. And the response, the answer to that isn't always going to be eat less, but maybe just being comfortable with the fact that, okay, something's changed here. I'm going to treat this as a maintenance period. Go ahead and jump in if you need to. I know I'm going hard.
No, I can wait. I want to make a point to your point.
Okay. So I'm doing everything in my power. I don't have the ability to walk another 20 minutes per day. I'm eating comfortably. I like the foods I'm eating. It's not a high enough priority for me to lose weight a little bit faster. I'm going to treat this as what it is, a maintenance period, until my metabolic rate has the ability to change, where I can prioritize recovery a little bit more or sleep a little bit more, or I know I'm going to get through this period of change, or I will eventually prioritize a bit higher and change my nutrition to accommodate that. But when you start to understand that, rather than be frustrated by it, it doesn't have to be a limiting factor in your journey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amazing. So to your point, I want to tie it back to the original topic, which is holding yourself accountable. So if you're going through a program like Breaking 90 Fitness, this or similar to it, this is the education that you need so that when you are on your own and you notice, oh, things aren't moving like they used to, this might be where you sit there and go, maybe it isn't the diet program that I need to go on again, or the dietary lifestyle. Maybe it isn't even the fitness program that I need to go back to, quote unquote. I can still maintain my consistency with what I know to do for my body. And now accountability looks a little bit different, where you maybe are hiring a naturopathic doctor, or you're going to your medical doctor and saying, hey, can we look into my hormones and what's going on with my system? Talk to me about perimenopause and menopause, right? So accountability can shift to different professionals to be able to say, now we're going to watch different statistics. Now we're going to take other factors into consideration while you continue to do those healthy, consistent things for your lifestyle.
Good point. And there's going to be times where a medication might be the solution or it might help. But there's going to be other times where it doesn't, where you come to the conclusion that, yeah, I'm going through some menopause related changes and it is affecting my metabolic rate right now. In order for me to get into a calorie deficit and make progress for this, I would have to make a lot of sacrifices. Am I willing to make those sacrifices or not? I would almost always encourage you that it's not worth the sacrifices to make slightly faster progress, if you're okay with the idea of pushing for maintenance through that, because the solution will still be long-term consistency, right? These changes will they will fluctuate over time. Your metabolic rate will bounce back over time with consistency. This is just a period of time. So if you can wrap your head around the idea of maintenance through that, you're going to be able to enjoy your food a little bit more. You're going to have a little bit more energy. You're probably going to perform a little bit better in your exercise. It's just, I understand it's difficult. We always want to strive for more, push for more, but there's periods of time where we have to decide if the progress is worth the sacrifice.
Okay, so then another point that I think is worth pulling out here or highlighting is to say, you've got to have a healthy understanding of what time means. And when I say that, I mean, what do we define a long time as? Because I know I've talked to people and they're like, well, it's been a whole week. It's been a long time. And it's like, that is nowhere near what that definition is.
Yep. and that's going to be different for everybody. I mean, I can't tell you what's going to be a long time for you. The only thing I can say is you've spent your entire life getting to this point. Being patient is the solution for long-term sustainability. So if you aren't able to hit all of your goals within the next year, well, that's what sustainability looks like sometimes. I'm sorry. That's what not taking the quick fix looks like sometimes. But if you want to make this lifelong changes, it is about that consistency. That consistency is the most important factor here. Are we good with that? I could circle back to kind of where I was going. Okay. Great. All right. So we have to be real with ourselves. Have I been consistent? Have I been consistent over a long period of time? Yes or no? If no, I haven't been consistent, that's the first thing you need to address. Okay. So address the consistency before you address anything else. And that might mean changing your goals slightly, changing what consistency looks like slightly, or digging in a little bit deeper. But you have to address the consistency before we move on. So before we make changes, before we try something different, before we get frustrated, address the consistency. The next thing that we're going to address is the intensity. And what I mean by when I say that is when we aren't consistent. So on the days that we aren't hitting our goals, are they turning into blowouts, binges, going completely off the rails, falling off for an entire week? Like if you're telling me, yeah, I was consistent all year except for the summer when I didn't really track. Well, that's potentially like, that's such a loose conversation that could mean 4 months you weren't on track, right? That long-term consistency is all the time, 365 days a year. How consistent have you been? Doesn't mean you have to hit your goals every single day, but are your days of not hitting goals so extreme that they are affecting the rest of the days that you are hitting your goals? You can be very, very well behaved for 5 days, Monday through Friday, and go off the rails Saturday and Sunday, and you will not make progress. Okay.
Yeah, one of the terminologies that we use in Breaking 90 Fitness is when we meet our goals, we put an X on the calendar, and we usually refer to that as an X day when we're thinking about our nutrition. And then if we're not meeting our goals nutritionally, we put an O on the calendar, and a lot of us refer to it as an O day. I took an O day, right? So it's your birthday, I'm taking an O day, I want cake. Cool, enjoy that. What I needed to do actually is shift that mindset, and what I'm going to ask other people to think about in their intensity, because that's what we're talking about, is are you turning it into a whole day, or are you taking an O meal and putting an O on the calendar, right? If you know that you want to have cake at dinner and that's going to put you over your points or put you over your calories for your day, okay, no problem. But do you try and pack in everything you've been missing or depriving yourself of the entire week, and now your intensity is so huge you're not seeing progress?
For sure. And for the person listening to this, that like, we all kind of have that time of year that's really, really special to us. If your birthday is the day where you're just like, I just want to have all this stuff, all that shit that I love. Like I want like all the junk food and the cake, and like, do it. Honestly, like when we're talking about consistency, if you're consistent 364 days and not on one day, you cannot do enough damage on that one day. But that's rarely ever the case. Okay. That person almost always likes to do that on their birthday, their friend's birthday, Christmas, summer vacation, holiday, Tuesday. Easter, Thanksgiving, Tuesday, Toppers Tuesday, right? The $14 specialty pizzas. And so, so that is the issue. Right? Like if you're sitting here telling me that you want to go nuts on your birthday, give her. I don't care. But you have to be realistic about overall consistency. If you could get right back on track the next day, and that's that important to you to celebrate like that on your birthday, I don't see a problem with it. I don't think most people need to do that. But if it is that important to you, that will not stop you from making progress if it truly is one day that you treat like that. Okay. So we've addressed the consistency issue. We've addressed the intensity issue. Now, what I want you to do is look at, if I'm stuck here, I'm not making the progress I want, I'm deciding whether or not I need to make changes. I want you to look at the period of time you're in and compare it to a period of time where you were making progress, where things were going the way you wanted it to. And I want you to, you can do this on a piece of paper, or you can just brainstorm it. I think it's helpful to write it out. Write out the differences. What was going really well during this period of time? What's going really well during this period of time? What wasn't going as well back then? What isn't going as well now? And we start to compare these two periods of time, because we are the same person. And as you remember me talking about earlier, we will have changes during our journey. So you're not always comparing an apple to an apple, but you will always have a lot of similarities. So if you can look at a fairly recent period of time, say 6 months ago, where you were making really good progress, and then now where you might not be making much progress, you're probably going to be able to highlight some differences. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say too, like I've done that comparing, okay, maybe I saw more progress, last June, and I'm looking at May this year going, oh, whoa, like what's happening? I'm doing so great. What is it about me that I'm changing? And it's like, it's actually the weather. You had sun earlier, an earlier spring, and it pushed you outside because you love that so much. And so I'm looking at the difference, not necessarily in my personal self, but the opportunities that I was afforded to get out if I'm a fair weather person. And so I can sit there and just leave it at that. Or I can sit there and be like, okay, so then if this doesn't happen every May, how can I make things more accessible to myself in a way I enjoy so that progress can be more consistent, even if that sun is not there?
I love it. I just doing some rough math here, just for fun, because I like doing math. Okay, so to your point, a little bit different, but to your point, we look at a period of time, we realize that maybe I was a little bit more active. And sometimes you won't even realize this because it will be a little bit more active. Say we were at that time doing a short walk every day that burned us 100 extra calories. And that's not a huge walk to burn 100 calories. So say we were doing that walk every day, and over a period of, well, I just did over a year, that's almost 11 extra pounds of weight loss that we're burning from 100 calories per day. Okay, so 100 calories, depending on the size you are and your body composition, might be a short walk. Like we might be talking like 10 to 30 minutes of a walk here. And so that, you could be like, man, these two periods of time are identical. I was eating really well then, I'm eating really well now. I was getting my workout in 4 days a week, I'm getting my workout in 4 days a week now. But maybe you were doing a 15-minute walk with your dog every morning that you slowly let slide, and you kind of forgot about that. Well, that 11 pounds in a year is a significant change. It doesn't sound like it day to day. We probably won't even notice it day to day, but it will over time have a great impact. The exact same thing can happen with nutrition. Maybe both periods of time feel like you're dialed in with nutrition, but now, oh yeah, you know what? I'm not really paying as close of attention to the oil serving size I put in the pan. Well, a tablespoon of oil is probably about 100 calories. So if your tablespoon becomes 2 tablespoons, that 100 calories over a year per day equals 11 pounds gained. Right? So these are the little things when I say comparing a period of time to another period of time that are going to have a great impact, that can be enough to make you feel like you're stuck. So anything you want to ask or add here before I keep going, Kelly?
No, I guess yes. I just think it's really cool what you're saying, because this can be the difference between, I want to illustrate two things. Like, maybe you were living in an apartment and every day you had to take your dog out to go to the washroom, but you literally had to take them on leash and go for that 10-minute walk to the stop sign and back. And you moved into a house with a fence. And now you don't have to do that anymore, right? There's your 10 minutes a day gone, or 20 minutes a day gone. And I even think about having moved out. I moved out and started cooking all of my mom's recipes. I was eating the same food, and yet I was more diligent with my measurements because I wasn't confident in my cooking, and she was doing it more, by feel, or maybe looser and not thinking about it. And so it was those 2 tablespoons. And that can be the difference, even though you're like, I'm eating the same thing.
Yep.
It's just those little observations that are so important.
I think you've probably all heard Coach Jerica say it, but if you want like a huge reality check, measure out a tablespoon of peanut butter.
It's upsetting.
It's like the most rude awakening you could possibly do for yourself.
Yeah. No, I prefer the Ted Lasso method.
Yeah, the open jar on the counter. Okay, so what I'm really getting at here, just going to come full circle, is before we change something for ourselves, because our instant reaction is going to be, I'm making good progress, I can eat more. I'm not making good progress, I need to restrict myself more or exercise more. So before we get into that headspace, have I been consistent? Yes or no? How's my intensity been? Have I been going a little bit off the rails? Yes or no? And then do that comparison drill. So am I doing things the same as when I was making progress? Yes or no? Both from a nutrition, exercise, recovery, sleep, hydration standpoint. Are there any changes here that stick out to me? So before we change anything, address these factors, right? Oh shit, yeah, like if you're going to be eating 100 extra calories of oil every day, you're going to be walking 10 minutes less every day. Those are two really, really small things that we should be changing before we're like, I'm going to cut back or I'm going to exercise another day per week, because those are what is actually affecting you. You haven't hit a plateau.
This is an exceptional topic. I'm so glad you brought this up, because everything that you're talking about applies to your mental health. It applies to how you hold yourself accountable in life, period. I have heard what you're saying today. I have heard therapists say to their clients where they will say, when was the last time you ate? When was the last time you had a cup of water? And how was your sleep last night? And if someone is feeling erratic, if they are feeling irrational, if they are feeling dysregulated, right? Those are the first three things that they are asking them. Are you holding yourself accountable to your food, your sleep, and your hydration? Right? And because those are going to make the biggest changes in how you feel and are able to engage or not engage in your day.
Yep. One last kind of general example, because you mentioned the sleep, and sleep plays such a huge role in our recovery. So say your exercise is the same, your nutrition is the same, everything's the same, but you're not prioritizing sleep as much. Now we aren't recovering as well. We do most of our fat loss during recovery phase, which most of the time is during our sleep. That's when we're recovering at our highest rate. And so we're not prioritizing sleep anywhere as much. We're not recovering as well. Our metabolic rate is slowly coming down. That calorie deficit is becoming smaller or non-existent just because of a small factor, because you chose to watch an extra hour of TV every night instead of prioritizing sleep like you used to. That alone could be enough of a change before you make the decision that I need to exercise more or reduce my nutrition intake.
And let's touch on another pain point. Before you have to spend money, right? A lot of people go into this panic mode of like, well, maybe I need supplements. Well, maybe I need medication. Well, maybe I need to go join another program. And it's like, well, hang on, let's go back to those three main things and see if we can go back to some consistency there and see what that does for us before we try, like you said, to make any big changes or invest more financially. Let's hold ourselves accountable to those three things.
Yeah. And you might, like myself, say, okay, you know what? I need a little bit of accountability right now. It is the time for me to bring a coach or a program or something into this. But I just don't want you guys lying to yourselves because it's really easy to do.
That's awesome.
That's it. That's what I wanted to cover today. I think people will get a lot of value out of it, wherever you are in your journey. It's something to consider.
Yeah.
If you guys have questions or you want to dig deeper into this, please reach out to me. I'd love to have this chat with you. Yeah.
Myself awesome. As well. Can I leave them with a tip?
You can.
So I feel like the podcast was chock full of them. I wanted to do a mindset check-in. So people can just maybe, if they wish, prioritize this reflection at some point in their day. It doesn't matter if it's the beginning, middle, or end. It's all relevant. And that's just to really honestly ask yourself who you are intentionally connecting with today. Because, like we talked about in this podcast, we can be very busy checking in with all the things that we're supposed to check off our own to-do list to take care of ourselves. And that's all very good. But your connections are a huge part of your health and happiness as well. So if you are looking at who I am intentionally connecting with, not just who ran into my path today, but did I slow down to actively listen to them? Did I slow down to actively engage with them and really experience that moment with them? That's going to have a huge effect on your health and happiness, like I mentioned.
Awesome. I love that.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks for the tip. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all for listening. I hope you guys got a lot of value out of this episode. As always, please share it with your friends. Take a screenshot, share it on Instagram, send it to somebody that you think might benefit from hearing it. We love getting new listeners and followers. So if there's something that resonated with you, let us know. If there's topics you'd love to hear in the future, let us know. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.